Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless official 24 channel. Ian Ward pushing Mariah Copeland over the edge isn't just another recycled nightmare from her past, it's shaping up to be the most dangerous psychological spiral she's ever faced, and Young and the Restless spoilers suggest the fallout could permanently alter her life, her family, and even the safety of an innocent child. Mariah has been teetering on the brink for weeks, quietly unraveling while trying to convince everyone, including herself, that she's finally getting help. Her stay at a mental health facility in Boston was supposed to be the beginning of healing, a chance to confront the trauma that's haunted her since Ian Ward first poisoned her mind and stole her sense of control. But instead of progress, Mariah appears trapped in a looping mental horror show, where Ian's voice refuses to stay buried. On Friday, January 2nd, Y&R fans will watch as Ian's presence becomes more vivid, more manipulative, and more cruel than ever, pushing Mariah toward a breaking point that feels frighteningly inevitable. Even though this Ian isn't real, a hallucination born from trauma, guilt, and fear, the damage he inflicts is just as devastating, because in Mariah's mind, he's still powerful, still watching, and still capable of destroying everything she loves. Ian's haunting taunts aren't random, they strike at Mariah's deepest insecurities, whispering that she's broken beyond repair, that the facility is a cage rather than a sanctuary, and that the people she trusts have already moved on without her. Every session, every sterile hallway, every locked door seems to amplify Ian's voice, until Mariah can no longer tell whether she's being treated or slowly erased. The most chilling part is that Ian doesn't just haunt her, he guides her, nudging her toward reckless thoughts and impulsive decisions, convincing her that escape is the only way to survive. As Mariah's hallucinations intensify, it becomes clear that the facility may actually be making her worse instead of better, isolating her from the emotional anchors she desperately needs while allowing her mind to spiral unchecked. That realization alone could send Mariah bolting back to Genoa City, desperate to reclaim control by returning to familiar ground, familiar faces, and most importantly, Sharon Newman, the one person who understands both her pain and her darkness better than anyone else. Sharon isn't just Mariah's mother, she's her emotional lifeline, her safest place, and possibly the only therapist Mariah will trust when her mind starts betraying her again. If Mariah feels abandoned, misunderstood, or trapped in Boston, running back to GC may feel less like regression and more like survival. But the problem is, Mariah won't be returning home stronger, she'll be returning fragile, paranoid, and already halfway to losing everything. Genoa City isn't the quiet refuge she imagines, and once she's back, reality may deliver a blow far more devastating than any hallucination. Waiting for her is the undeniable truth that life didn't pause while she was gone, especially when it comes to Tessa Porter and Daniel Romalotti Jr. Their growing closeness could hit Mariah like a sledgehammer, shattering whatever emotional balance she has left. In her vulnerable state, Mariah may misinterpret innocent moments as betrayals, ordinary affection as proof that she's been replaced, and whispered conversations as evidence of secrets being kept from her. It's painfully easy to imagine Mariah accidentally witnessing something she was never meant to see, Tessa and Daniel kissing in the hallway, laughing together in crimson lights, or worse, disappearing into a hotel suite together, and feeling her world collapse in real time. Ian's voice would seize that moment, feeding her worst fears, twisting the knife by insisting that this is what she deserves, that she was never enough, that everyone leaves eventually. The emotional shock of realizing Tessa has moved on could be the final shove Mariah needs to tip fully into chaos, especially if she feels abandoned not only romantically, but emotionally, like she no longer has a place anywhere. And that's where the storyline takes its darkest turn. Based on mounting spoiler hints and ominous behind-the-scenes clues, it appears Mariah's unraveling may lead her to make a decision so shocking, so reckless, that it sends shockwaves through the entire Newman Abbott Winters Chancellor family. The possibility that Mariah could kidnap Dominic Newman Abbott Winters Chancellor isn't just sensational, it's tragically rooted in unresolved trauma and a bond that never fully healed. Mariah gave birth to Dominic as a surrogate, and while she did the right thing by handing him over, a piece of her heart never truly let go of Bowie. In her fractured mental state, Ian's voice could exploit that bond, convincing her that Dominic is safer with her, that she's his real protector, that taking him isn't wrong, it's necessary. To Mariah, this wouldn't feel like a crime, it would feel like salvation, like reclaiming a piece of herself that was taken too soon. The danger lies in how rational her actions may seem to her in the moment, how calmly she could convince herself that she's rescuing Dominic from a world that's already failed her. If Mariah does abduct the baby, it won't be out of malice or spite, it will be the heartbreaking result of untreated trauma, triggered by Ian's relentless psychological grip and reinforced by the emotional devastation she faces back in Genoa City. This storyline has the potential to be one of Y&R's most emotionally complex arcs in years, forcing viewers to wrestle with uncomfortable questions about mental health, accountability, and how easily love can turn into obsession when pain goes untreated. Ian Ward may not physically be there, but his influence is alive and well, lingering like a ghost that refuses to be exorcised. And as Mariah's world collapses around her, the real horror won't be Ian's voice in her head, it will be the moment she realizes, far too late, how much damage she's done while trying to save herself. If this path continues, Mariah Copeland isn't just heading for a breakdown, she's barreling toward a tragedy that could redefine her forever, leaving Genoa City to pick up the pieces while asking the most devastating question of all: can someone be forgiven for the things they do when they've completely lost their mind? The tragedy of Mariah Copeland's unraveling is that it won't arrive in a single explosive moment, it will creep in quietly, disguised as determination, love, and a desperate need to feel whole again. By the time anyone in Genoa City realizes how far she's gone, the damage may already be irreversible. As Mariah spirals deeper under the weight of Ian Ward's hallucinations, her sense of right and wrong begins to blur, replaced by a chilling certainty that she alone sees the truth. Ian's voice, slick and poisonous, doesn't scream commands, it reasons with her. He reminds her of every loss, every abandonment, every time she was told she wasn't enough. He reframes her pain as insight, her instability as clarity, and slowly convinces her that the world around her is lying. Doctors are wrong. Friends are distracted. Sharon is overwhelmed. Tessa has moved on. And Dominic, sweet, innocent Dominic, is the only constant, the only soul untouched by betrayal. In Mariah's fractured mind, that realization becomes an obsession. She starts replaying memories of her pregnancy, the way Dominic kicked inside her, the nights she sang to him when no one else could hear, the bond she swore she'd let go of but never truly released. Ian feeds those memories back to her like gospel, whispering that a mother doesn't just stop being a mother because paperwork says so. He insists that the pain she feels now is proof that the separation was unnatural, cruel, and unfinished. And the more Mariah tries to fight those thoughts, the stronger they become, until resisting feels like denying her own identity. Back in Genoa City, Sharon senses something is wrong long before Mariah even walks through the door. There's a subtle shift in her daughter's energy, the forced smiles, the way her eyes dart to corners of rooms, the tension coiled beneath every breath. Sharon tries to be calm, grounding, supportive, but Mariah's paranoia twists even that into suspicion. Every question feels like an interrogation. Every suggestion feels like control. Ian's voice mocks Sharon's concern, accusing her of wanting to lock Mariah away again, to fix her by erasing the parts that make people uncomfortable. And when Sharon gently brings up returning to professional treatment, it lands like a slap. To Mariah, it confirms everything Ian has been saying, that no one trusts her, that no one believes she can make her own choices. That sense of betrayal pushes her further inward, sealing off the last safe exit from her spiral. Meanwhile, the tension between Mariah, Tessa, and Daniel simmers just beneath the surface, growing more volatile with every passing day. Tessa notices Mariah watching her, not openly, but with a sharp intensity that feels invasive, almost predatory. Daniel, caught in the middle, struggles with guilt, unsure whether his closeness with Tessa is harmless comfort or a spark he never intended to ignite. When Mariah finally confronts them, the scene is raw, explosive, and painfully one-sided. She accuses them of conspiring behind her back, of waiting until she was weak to replace her. Tessa insists nothing happened while Mariah was gone, but Mariah's mind fills in the gaps with imagined betrayals, each one more devastating than the last. Ian's voice roars approval, twisting the knife by insisting that love is conditional, temporary, and always taken away the moment you need it most. That emotional collapse sets the stage for the unthinkable. Mariah begins watching Dominic from afar, at first casually, then obsessively. She memorizes routines, schedules, who comes and goes. She tells herself she's just checking in, just making sure he's okay. But soon, concern turns into conviction. She notices every tiny detail, a missed nap, a delayed feeding, a moment when the baby cries a little too long. In Mariah's mind, these become signs of neglect, proof that Dominic isn't safe. Ian reinforces the delusion, praising her vigilance and reminding her that she knows Dominic better than anyone else ever could. He tells her she's the only one who hears his cries properly, the only one who understands what he needs. When Mariah imagines taking Dominic, it doesn't feel like theft, it feels like rescue. She pictures holding him close, soothing him, finally silencing the chaos in her head. For the first time in weeks, the thought brings her peace. That's when the plan starts to form, quietly and methodically. No panic. No frenzy. Just calm resolve. Mariah convinces herself that she won't be gone long, just long enough to prove she can care for him, long enough for everyone else to realize they were wrong about her. But deep down, the fantasy stretches further, darker, hinting at a future where she doesn't have to give him back at all. The kidnapping itself is disturbingly quiet. No alarms. No dramatic confrontations. Just a moment of opportunity and a choice that changes everything. When Dominic is discovered missing, the shock ripples through Genoa city like an earthquake. Panic sets in instantly, and suspicion spreads fast. The truth hits Sharon first, and when it does, it devastates her. She recognizes the signs, the pattern, the way untreated trauma can masquerade as certainty. Sharon is torn between protecting her daughter and protecting an innocent child, a moral conflict that shatters her heart. As authorities get involved, the situation escalates from a family crisis into a full-blown nightmare. Every hour that passes makes the outcome more dangerous, more unpredictable. And somewhere alone with Dominic, Mariah begins to crack. The reality of what she's done starts to collide with the fantasy, and the weight of it becomes unbearable. Dominic cries more. Sleep becomes impossible. Ian's voice, once comforting, turns cruel again, berating her for every perceived failure. The peace she expected never comes. Instead, she's trapped in a new prison of her own making, haunted not just by Ian, but by the growing realization that she's become exactly what she feared, a danger to the people she loves. As this storyline hurtles toward its climax, Young and the Restless sets the stage for a devastating reckoning. Can Mariah be reached before it's too late? Can Sharon pull her back from the edge without losing her forever? And perhaps the most haunting question of all, when mental illness drives someone to commit an unforgivable act, where does compassion end and accountability begin? Ian Ward may never physically return to Genoa City, but his legacy of manipulation and psychological destruction looms larger than ever, proving that some villains don't need to be alive to keep hurting people. For Mariah Copeland, the road ahead promises heartbreak, consequences, and a painful journey toward truth, if she survives it at all. Ian Ward pushes Mariah over the edge. Ian Ward's next haunting horror show may push Mariah Copeland over the edge. Mariah hasn't been in a good place mentally for quite some time, but things may get even worse soon enough. Y&R fans can expect Ian to mess with Mariah's head again on Friday, January 2nd. Mariah has been receiving treatment at a facility in Boston, but she clearly hasn't made much progress if she's still hallucinating Ian visits. Of course, this version of Ian isn't real, but that won't matter when it comes to Mariah's state of mind. Ian's next haunting may push Mariah too far and leave her feeling like she has to get out of there. Mariah might go running back to Genoa City as a result, especially if she decides she'd rather turn to Sharon Newman for therapy. There's a chance Mariah's current facility is making her worse instead of better, so that's worth keeping in mind. Mariah may still be in a fragile state when she returns to GC, where she'll no doubt find that Tessa Porter and Daniel Romalotti Jr. have gotten much closer. That's something else that could contribute to Mariah's mental downward spiral since she's on the verge of making some wild moves. It's easy to imagine Mariah spotting Tessa making out with Daniel or even tracking her down in a suite with him. If all the Ian hauntings weren't enough to shove Mariah off the deep end, then knowing Daniel and Tessa are a thing now could certainly do the trick. Based on some spoiler hints and behind-the-scenes clues, it looks like Mariah may totally lose it and kidnap Dominic Newman Abbott Winter's Chancellor. Since Mariah gave birth to Dominic as part of the surrogacy story, Y&R may revisit her bond with Bowie for the next chapter of her mental health crisis. The moment everything finally implodes for Mariah Copeland is not loud, not cinematic, and not driven by rage, it's driven by exhaustion. The kind that seeps into your bones after weeks of fear, paranoia, and self-justification. Alone with Dominic, Mariah reaches a point where the adrenaline that carried her through the kidnapping drains away, leaving her face to face with the full weight of what she's done. The walls feel closer. The silence feels oppressive. Every cry from Dominic slices through her chest like a blade, because it forces her to confront the truth she's been desperately avoiding. Love alone isn't enough to make her well. Ian Ward's voice, once seductive and reassuring, grows sharper, more punishing. He berates her for every mistake, mocks her exhaustion, and insists that if Dominic is upset, it's because she isn't trying hard enough. This is how Ian has always operated, building someone up just long enough to ensure their fall is devastating. Mariah begins snapping at shadows, arguing out loud with a voice no one else can hear, her grip on reality loosening with every passing hour. Meanwhile, the search for Dominic consumes Genoa City. Police comb through leads while Chance struggles to remain objective, painfully aware that the suspect is someone he cares about deeply. Abby is inconsolable, swinging between rage and terror, blaming herself for not seeing the warning signs sooner. Devin is quieter, internalizing his panic, replaying every interaction he's had with Mariah and wondering which moment he failed her. And Sharon is unraveling in her own way, torn apart by guilt so heavy it threatens to crush her. She knows Mariah's mind better than anyone, and that knowledge becomes both her greatest weapon and her deepest curse. Sharon insists on helping, refusing to step aside even as the situation escalates, convinced that if anyone can reach Mariah, it's her. But the clock is ticking, and compassion alone may not be enough. As the investigation closes in, Mariah senses the walls tightening around her. Sirens in the distance send her spiraling into panic, each sound interpreted as confirmation that everyone is coming to take Dominic away. Ian's voice pushes her further, urging her to keep moving, to disappear, to trust no one. He frames the authorities as monsters, Sharon as a traitor, and Abby as unworthy. Mariah starts packing in frantic bursts, her movements jerky and unfocused, Dominic wailing as the tension infects the air. This is the point where the fantasy completely collapses. The baby isn't calming her. He isn't fixing her. He's amplifying every crack in her psyche, reflecting her fear back at her in raw, helpless cries. And for the first time, a terrifying thought breaks through Ian's control. What if she really isn't capable of keeping him safe? That question terrifies Mariah more than prison, more than losing Tessa, more than facing the consequences of her actions. Because it forces her to confront the possibility that Ian was wrong, and that means admitting she's been listening to a lie. Back in Genoa City, tensions explode as accusations fly. Abby lashes out at Sharon, unable to reconcile a mother's love with the horror of what's happened. Devin steps in, trying to keep the family from tearing itself apart, but the damage is already done. Trust fractures under the weight of fear and grief. Meanwhile, Tessa is drowning in guilt, convinced that her closeness with Daniel somehow triggered Mariah's breakdown. Daniel, for his part, is racked with regret, realizing too late that emotional boundaries blurred when they should have been reinforced. Their relationship, whatever it was becoming, disintegrates under the pressure, replaced by shared dread and self-blame. As Mariah's name spreads through the investigation, public opinion turns cruel and unforgiving. Whispers label her unstable, dangerous, irredeemable. The woman who once fought so hard to escape her past is now being defined by it again, and that stigma becomes another barrier standing between her and salvation. The emotional climax arrives when Sharon finally tracks Mariah down. It isn't through police work or technology, it's instinct. Sharon recognizes patterns in Mariah's behavior, places she'd go when overwhelmed, memories she'd cling to when everything else feels unsafe. When Sharon walks into the room and sees Dominic in Mariah's arms, the relief and terror hit simultaneously. She doesn't rush. She doesn't shout. She speaks softly, grounding Mariah with familiar words and memories, reminding her of who she is beneath the illness. For a fleeting moment, Ian's voice falters. Mariah locks eyes with her mother, and the tears come fast and uncontrollable. She admits she's scared, that she can't make the noise stop, that she thought Dominic would save her but now she's terrified she's hurting him instead. Sharon listens, holding space for the truth without judgment, even as her heart shatters. This is the hardest part of loving someone with severe trauma, knowing that understanding doesn't erase consequences.